You know, I don't watch a lot of news, and a lot of times because I'm pouring out on social media, most often I don't do a lot of reading on social media. So I had not really heard of the Tyree Nichols, or I would imagine it's pronounced Tyree, but the young man who was killed in Memphis. And the world is not that big, and so it could be somebody he went to school with, or one of his family members who, follow me online, and just want to send my condolences to his family and friends. That's so tragic, and it gets me to thinking, because today when I was driving from the airport coming to soccer practice, I was in my wife's car, and I had the top down, and it was a guy on a motorcycle behind me, and it sounded like he said, pick a lane, or get out my way, GD, God's name in vain with the curse word. And right when he said that, I went to roll down my window and say, hey, you better watch your mouth. And then I kind of wanted to get out my lane and get from behind the car and kind of catch up to him and roll my window down and look at him and just say, what you said, or you better watch your mouth. And then right as I went to do that, right as I thought about that, I then had this vision of him pulling a gun out of his waistband and firing back at me through my windshield. And when I did that, I was like, okay, I pictured that, and it just really kind of hit me. And then after that moment, it was like, so many times people have been on the road, and they'll be on the road, and men have gotten killed from road rage. Like, somebody gets cut off, somebody whips out the lane, somebody flicks a bird, somebody go to cursing, and then the next thing you know, somebody pull a gun. I remember in my city where a man was killed in the movie theater, I believe by a retired cop, because he wouldn't turn off his phone light. He was texting on his phone, and the light, and the man told him to turn the light off, and they got in an argument, and the retired cop had a gun on him and got heated. Man pulled out the gun, shot and killed him. And it really got me to thinking just about, male ego, and how the Bible says be slow to anger. And the Bible says, be anxious for nothing. And it talks about a man who can control himself is stronger than a man who can conquer a city, or something to that effect. And it really got me to thinking, because it's been so many times that my ego could have gotten me in trouble. And it got me to thinking when somebody sent me this like a article that hasn't been confirmed about the young man whose life was taken, and it made me think about the police. And one thing that, there's good cops out there. My dad was a police, and he was a police for, I think, 3 years or 5 years. I get the number mixed up. First I thought it was 5, then I thought he said 3. I know he was in the Army for like 3 years, but one of the things that really hit me was, when I look at police, one thing I noticed is that it's a lot of men who were bullied in high school. It's a lot of men who were called a nerd. They were called lame. They were overlooked by women. And then it's also a lot of men who feel lost. They feel lost in life. And being a police officer is a respected job. And there's also some women who become a police officer for some of the same reasons, just feeling like, hey, this is a respectable job and I don't have anything else that I'm doing right now. But when a man does this, and it may be the same for a woman, but I'm not a woman, but when a man does this and a man operates from this place of insecurity, and he operates from this place of ego, and it was talking about, they stopped this young man, and then next thing you know, they went to mace him, put him on the ground, went to mace him. He gets up, he runs, they catch him, and they beat him for 3 minutes. And he's all bloody, and then one of the cops takes out his phone, shines his flashlight, and takes a picture of him. And they said that he then sent that picture to 5 people, and 6 people saw that picture. So it's almost like we just beat this guy. Us cops teamed up against this one person who was defenseless, helpless. We beat him to a pulp. And now I'm taking a picture, not for evidence, but like a trophy. And then I'm gonna send it out and show it off. And when I think about that, and I just think about being a man, and I think about, man, where would I have to be to do that? I would have to feel so worthless. I would have to feel so small. I would have to feel so angry, so self-hating. I would have no strength in my body, like no real integrity in my body, no real character in my body. It would really be from a place of just cowardice and insecurity and just pure self-hate. And I realize it's so many men who seek power to get revenge from being bullied as a teen, as a child, from being overlooked. And one of the things that a lot of women don't understand, there's this thing saying that a woman loves a man in uniform. And when you really think about that, a lot of men, not all now, but a lot of men in uniform go get that uniform out of insecurity. To put that uniform on, because that uniform becomes like a mask. That uniform becomes their uniform, meaning they're dressing up as a person. And they do this, and it's kind of like this thing where it's like, do you really know yourself? Do you really love yourself? Who are you? And then women see these men and they say, oh, this represents power. This represents security. This represents strength. So he's sexy, he's admirable, he's attractive, but not knowing that uniform may be dressing up insecurity. That uniform may be a uniform to cover his insecurity, his mental weakness, his self-hate. And the woman doesn't realize that. And then we see, and I want you to think about, like, if you're police, unless your life is in danger, like you feel within a breath of your life, within one breath of losing your life, unless a police officer feels like that, a civilian's life should never be taken. Because when you are a police officer, you are in a complete position of power. You have a gun on your waist. You have a nightstick or a billy club or whatever it is. Or they might not have those anymore. You have a taser. It's like you have weapons. So if you have a person and this person is clearly unarmed, never should a civilian's life be taken. But see, here's the thing, and this is what a lot of people don't think about. A lot of people don't think about why there's so much leniency on police officers. And One of the reasons being, y'all got to forgive me for this, cause it's a fireplace, a ambulance, right? That's a fire truck. My wife was driving home because I came here to relieve her so she could go home and get a head start. Then I got to take Tater home and then come back and pick up our oldest son. We live about 30 minutes from here. But Tater gets done in 5 minutes, so I got to be watching for him. What a lot of people don't realize is the leniency is not because the government doesn't know that it's wrong what the police did. And now they starting to have a lot of pressure and people kind of waking up, and the media is publicizing some of these incidents. So they're feeling like the pressure and they kind of have to save face. But the reason why there's so much leniency is because if they start to punish the police are going to feel restricted and like they don't have the freedom to protect themselves, like they don't have the right to protect themselves. And the reason why they don't want the police to feel that way is because then police will say, well, now you want me to be at danger, but not the person that I fear, quote unquote fear. But it's also for martial law. It's also for complete control. It's also for the Bible talks about the days and times that we're going to eventually go into, and Lord willing, I'm not here to see it, and my kids ain't here to see it. Pray the Lord tarry, and God bless my great grandkids, because that might be probably when it happened, unless the Lord moves sooner. But in this space where they're saying, hey, if you're a Christian, you're going to prison. In this time where they say, hey, if you don't have this mark of the beast, if you don't have this chip in your hand or this chip in your head, we coming to get you out your house. If they have disarmed the police, if they have made the police feel powerless, there will not be anybody to do that job. And yeah, they're going to have robots by the end, most likely, that can do the job, but it's a computer, so they still going to want some humans to do the job too. And that's why that power has to be able to remain like that, because if they take that away from them, they're going to now all of the weak men, not all the men are weak. There are some strong police officers and some police officers with integrity, and they're doing it for the right reason. But slowly but surely, they're becoming the minority. And the majority is becoming weak, insecure men. And because these men also putting their life on the line at the hands of other weak, insecure men who are civilians, who are not living and doing the right thing. But that's making these men who are already scary by nature. They already scared. They already weak. They already soft. So when you take a man who's insecure and weak and soft in his mind and how he views himself, and you send him into the battlefield, you send him into the war zone, you send him into these rough neighborhoods, he's going to be so trigger happy. He's going to be so quick to beat somebody, to shoot somebody, because he has no mental security. He has no real strength. He's so full of fear that he sees these people as animals. He doesn't see them as a human that he can understand, like, hey, man, you done had a tough break in life. You got some tough things going on. You live in a tough neighborhood. You feel like the world is against you. He's not trying to empathize with the person. He's not seeking to understand. He's seeking to control. And if he can't control, he's seeking to destroy. And he'll steal a life. And so, in essence, this insecurity starts to be played on by the adversary. The devil starts to use these men with guns on their waist, or with the ability to beat civilians. And what it does is, when the police take and beat a civilian, they don't just beat that one civilian. They beat all of us. They beat all of us. And what it does for us is, it puts us in a state of anger. It puts us in a state of fear. It puts us on edge, and we can provoke a situation or escalate a situation with a police officer just because of what's in the back of our mind. And so this really has me thinking about the male ego, because with this male ego, it's kind of like I'm learning that in order to truly be strong as a man, I gotta be able to sidestep the power struggle with a weak man. So when a man goes to huffing and puffing, if I just walk away, and if I can tame my ego as a man and not feel the need to prove myself, because deep down I already know I could whoop this man. Deep down I already know I could kill this man. Deep down I already know what could be done to this man, but also I know what could be done to me. I know I'm not Superman. I know I'm not bulletproof. So I know that I got a wife and I got kids. And to win this road rage, to win this argument, to win this little battle of the ego, is it really worth putting my life on the line and potentially losing my life? And I remember one time the police stopped me, and I was driving in Texas, so I was kind of swerving. And that's why he stopped me, but he didn't want to say that. He didn't want to say, well, I stopped you because you kind of swerved out your lane, so you look suspicious. Maybe I thought you was trying to hide a gun or hide some drugs. He couldn't really say that. He was like, hey, sir, can I see your license and registration? And I was like, for what? I'm like, what you need my license and registration for? Like, what did I do? Was I speed? And when he came back, he was like panting, like he was breathing so hard. And I don't know if he like looked me up, and I don't know if he Googled me, because I was in a specialized vehicle, and with a matte wrap on it, so it looked like an army tank. It was a Tahoe, but it looked like an army tank, and it was back when not many people had a matte wrap on there, a flat paint wrap on their car, so it looked like a celebrity car. And I don't know if he Googled me and just started to get scared, like, oh man, what if this guy like make a big deal about this, go on social media about this, and just say I stopped him for no reason, I'm gonna lose my job. Or if it was like just the tension of like, what if I've angered this guy, and what if he pull out a gun and shoot me? Because it was not too long before that where a guy had, a police officer did a routine traffic stop, and the guy he stopped, when he walked up, the guy pulled out a gun and shot him. And so that's the flip side of with the police, when they overreact and they do too much and they act out like that. That's the flip side when that happens, and it's because of that fear. It's because of that, I gotta get home to my wife and kids. And on that, it's like, if you that scared, because the point of being a police officer is to be able to come within an inch of your life, serving and protecting. Not to be so scared that when you within a mile of your life, not an inch of your life, you already taking somebody's life because you that scared. If you that scared, then you should go do another job. But it's hard to tell that to somebody who feels lost in life. They feel worthless in life. They feel weak. They feel insecure. They feel insignificant. It's hard to tell that to somebody who feels that way. And that's what we see so often. But this just really got me thinking about this ego thing. And I just wanted to share that, because I think it's important for men to hear this, to say, is it worth it? And I was reading, and they say the man just said, hey, y'all doing a lot right now. And then they went to mace him, and he got up to run. And if you ever go into that situation and you let your son, or get your husband to listen to this, or brother, and because we lost this young man, but it does us no good if we don't learn from it. So if that happened to me, after seeing how that played out, and after seeing that these weak police officers, cowards, use this man's fear of being brutalized for no reason, and he jumped up and ran, they use his fear, they use him running as a license to kill. So they get him and they beat him to death. So if that happened to me, I'm gonna lay there and I'm gonna just think of Jesus. And I'm gonna think of how, he suffered the wrong. And I'm gonna think of suffering the wrong. And I'm gonna sit there in that moment and I'm gonna suffer the wrong. And I ain't gonna do nothing to escalate the situation. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna do anything. And if the Lord let me live, I'm finna get multi millions. And if the Lord don't let me live, my family gonna get multi millions. And
Was you waving at me?
I will have lived my life. But it got me to thinking, and I'm like, you know what? In so many of these situations where even though the civilian is the victim, and even though the civilian did nothing wrong, it's that time where it's those times where the male ego still kicks in, still comes into play. So now it becomes this test, this battle of male ego, and the police say, "Well, I'm gonna show you who has the power. I'm gonna show you who's in power right now." And it's hard for a man to feel powerful when you're not contesting him. He will start to feel like a coward because he's picking on somebody that's defenseless. And sometimes, and that's if he got any rational bone in his body. Now, sometimes that's not even the case, and there's nothing we can do. Sometimes there's nothing we can do. And so there's no real right or wrong in this, in the sense of no analysis will be the right analysis, but we got to be able to take something from it and learn. Otherwise, somebody's died in vain. And we got to be able to do something a little different. And as men, and men, these police, for the police who hear this, a police sent it to them, be the man that changes the police force. Be the man that operates from a place of peace and love and strength, integrity, character, dignity, and identify the punk in you and crucify the punk in you. Consecrate the punk in you, the insecurity in you, the weakness in you. And then after you've done that for yourself, then go to the other men on the force and crucify the punk in them. Call the punk out in them and say, "Hey, listen, man, you operating from the wrong place and you're gonna be done kill somebody or be done got killed. And this might not be the job for you. If you got to have all this bravado, if you got to poke your chest out, if you got to assert dominance in every situation, if you got to overreact in every situation, this might not be the job for you." And be that person to infiltrate and get things straight, because God is watching and it's going to be a price to pay. And I'm going to tell you, when you are in a place of power, me personally, when you're in a place of power and you got all the power, you got the taser, you got the gun, and you got the authority because you got the badge, and you take the life of somebody who is unarmed, me personally, I'm giving you the death penalty. If the Lord allowed me to become a judge one day, I'm giving you the death penalty. And it ain't even about hate. It ain't about retaliation. It ain't about anger. It's because you have taken someone's life that you did not have to take their life, and you had all the power in the situation and did not have to do what you did. You deserve the death penalty. You deserve the death penalty, and if the death penalty ain't available, you deserve to sit in prison for the rest of your life. And just live with it. Just think about it. And you're gonna have to write a book on it. You're gonna have to write a book on it. You're gonna have to speak out. You're gonna have to send messages, do videos for other cops. I'm gonna have your butt working. And that's what we got to, we got to grow as men. We got to grow as men. We got to heal as men. We got to learn as men. And we got to get over this ego. So today I committed to myself. I say, you know what? We may not live in a society anymore where they're going to come and take my life for speaking the truth like Martin Luther King or Malcolm X. We may not live in that kind of society. We may be a more pacified, society. So But I said, but what hit me today, the Lord said to me, Tony, it'll be your ego that costs you your life. The devil will play on your quick temper, your lack of self-control. The devil will play on that to silence you. Because if you can control you, you will have the opportunity to live long enough to really affect change in the world, to touch millions of lives with the name of Jesus Christ, to touch millions of lives with real truth that can help change our world. So when the devil can't touch you one way, he will cause you to take yourself out based on the part of the Bible, the part of the instructions that you've been given that you're ignoring. That instruction that says be slow to anger. That instruction that says learn how to control yourself. The instructions that you ignore will be the instructions that cost you the most in your life. And it's those instructions that the devil will play on. And so the Lord hit me with that today. And I say, you know what? Never again will I feel the need to bow up with a man in a situation that could become physical. I'm going to handle my issues with men articulately, calmly. And that's how I walked out of that dealership with that $80,000 car, free of charge. Because I didn't flip over the table. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I didn't threaten his life. Instead, what I did is I intelligently and articulately talked to him for 3 hours. And he saw things my way. And he heard that I'm gonna handle this thing the right way. If we don't work this out the way it need to be worked out, I'm going to social media to expose your dealership. I'm going to the news to expose your dealership. And if you can't get this lesson. And so I gave him grace because he got a family to feed. He got a family to feed. Everybody working there got a family to feed. And that's not a real lucrative job to be a car salesman because it fluctuates with the economy. So I showed grace and I say, instead of trying to destroy you and tear you down, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to make this right with the hope that this will scare you straight, with the hope that you'll do business differently. And who knows if they did or didn't. But I know the fear of that happening even one more time probably just loom in the back of his mind every single day when they went to write different deals with people. And I may send somebody up there one day with a pre-approval and to see if they do that same thing again. And if they do it again, hey, I gave you a chance. Now I got to expose you. So think about ego. Think about where you're operating from. Think about, how you living in your life. Think about just where you are and where you need to be. And let's continue to grow. Let's continue to build. Let's continue to grow. Getting wiser and smarter and better. Hey, this is Tony Gaston. God bless you. We'll talk soon. Hey, buddy. I seen you crank up now.
Foot hurt so bad.
Say hey. You on camera? Your foot hurt bad? How your foot hurt?